Hi, it's Kyle from Bitewing Games, and today we're learning how to play MLEM Space Agency, designed by Reiner Knizia and published by Rebel Studios. In MLEM, players are cats, exploring the depths of space. Each round, players will place a cat in the rocket, the commander will roll the dice, and select which dice to use and discard to move further into space. Only certain die values can be used, depending on your location. The further you go, the fewer dice you will have left, and the more likely you are to crash. Players can choose to push their luck for more points, or they can jump ship and land on the adjacent planet or moon. The point of the game is to win, and you win by having the most points. Points are earned as you land on moons and planets. Each moon can hold one cat and will award a number of points. The planets will score for majorities. There's no limit to the number of cats on a planet, and at the end of the game, the players with more cats on the planets will earn more points. You can also score points for completing the 4 objectives. Let's take a look at the setup. Roll out the cosmic map. Place the objective tokens and point tokens within reach of all players. Place the crashed rocket token on the cosmic failure track and the rocket marker on the 0 space. Each player takes a player board and the 8 matching cat tokens, placing the tokens on their board in any order. The player who most recently cleaned out the litter box becomes the start player and places the rocket board and all the dice in front of them. Players will take turns being the commander. The first player will select one of their cats and place it on the commander space on the rocket. The player to the left will place their cat in the next space, and so on in clockwise order. Once all cats are on the rocket, you are ready for blast-off. The commander will roll the 6 dice and organize the rolled dice into groups. The dice faces are 1, 2, 2, 3, 4, and this afterburner symbol. Each rocket location has a set of numbers indicating which dice values can be used at that location. So in this first location, you can use the afterburner, a 1, and a 2. So pink is the commander and they roll these dice. These 2 dice can't be used, so you set them aside. From the 4 available dice, the commander can decide which groups of dice to use. They could use both of these groups, or they could choose to just use one of the groups. But they do have to use all dice in a group. You couldn't just choose to use one afterburner. Sum up the value of the dice you decide to use and move the rocket that many spaces. The afterburner will move the rocket the indicated number of spaces. So in this example, each afterburner would move the rocket 1 space, but if the rocket were here, each afterburner would move the rocket 2 spaces. So in our example, pink decides to use all 4 dice, moving the rocket 4 spaces. After moving the rocket, discard any dice you used. You don't get to roll them anymore on this expedition. Afterburners are an exception. They don't get discarded, but will be used for your next roll. The other exception is the last die. If you're ever in a situation where you should have all 6 dice discarded, take one back. The commander always gets at least 1 dice to be able to roll with. Okay, back to our example. Pink used these 4 dice and discarded the 2 1s. Afterburners don't get discarded. They re-roll the remaining 4 dice, organize them into groups, set aside any dice that aren't allowed on the current rocket space, and choose which groups to use. In this case, they have a 4 and a 1 available. Let's say they just use the 4. They would move their rocket to this location, discarding their used die and landing on the indicated fishbowl planet. The first 5 spaces don't allow you to land on a moon or a planet, but all other spaces indicate a spot the ship is temporarily landing. At this point, the players can choose to stay on the ship, hoping to get further into space, earning more points, or they can decide to jump off the ship and land on the planet. The commander will decide first, moving their cat onto the planet if they choose to land here. The next player will decide, and so on until all players have chosen whether they want to land or stay on the rocket. Remember, planets will score for majorities, so at the end of the game, the player with the most cats here will earn 3 points. The player with the second most will earn 2, and anyone else with cats here will score 1 point. Ties go to the first player on the planet, so when placing your cats, place them from top to bottom to keep track of who got to the planet first. So, when first landing on the fishbowl, pink would place their cat here, then blue would place their cat here, and finally yellow would place their cat here. The next time they land on this planet, blue would place their second cat next to the first cat. So that's landing on a planet. Let's rewind a little bit to our previous example. Pink had rolled a 4 and a 1. The 4 brought us to this planet, but if the commander had chosen to use the 4 and the 1, we would have moved 5 spaces to this moon. Each moon can hold 1 cat. If Pink decided to get off the rocket, they would take the furthest, highest point moon, taking 2 points from the supply immediately. Blue could follow and earn 1 point for the next moon. There are no moons remaining, so yellow doesn't even have the choice of jumping ship. With Pink no longer in the rocket, who's leading this expedition? Move the cats up, filling in any empty spaces. The new commander will take the dice, but leave the rocket in front of the original commander. The new commander will take lead rolling the dice. Uh-oh, they only had 2 dice left, and neither of them were a 4 or a 2. The rocket crashes. But don't worry, cats always land on their feet, and they weren't harmed in the fall. Return any cats still on the rocket back to their players. Move the crashed rocket token forward 1 space, pass the rocket clockwise, and that player becomes the new commander. In clockwise order, players place their cats back on the rocket, and the commander begins another expedition. During the blue player's expedition, the yellow player gets off the ship here, earning 3 points. The green player gets off here as well, earning 2 points. The blue and pink player both push their luck a little bit and eventually land on these moons, earning 3 points each. There are no players left on the rocket, so this expedition is over. There was no crash, so you won't move the crash token forward a space. Rather, you'll still pass the rocket to the next player, and that player will become the commander, and you'll start another expedition. The yellow player becomes the commander. In this example, they move all the way to deep space. The commander moves their cat to the comet, earning 7 points. All other cats still on board move their cat to the galaxy, earning 5 points. Move the rocket clockwise, that player becomes the commander, and continue in this fashion around and around until either the crash token reaches the final space, or until the end of an expedition when a player places their last cat. At this point, the game ends. Before moving on to final scoring, let's look at the 4 objectives. This objective is for the first player to have 4 cats on 4 different planets. This objective is for the first player to have 3 cats on the same planet, 4 cats on moons, and 2 astronauts in deep space. The first player to accomplish the objective takes the objective token, placing it in front of them. Let's move on to final scoring. The game's over, we need to calculate points for planets. In this example, blue has the most cats, so they earn 3 points. Pink and yellow both have a cat, but pink got there first, so pink earns 2 points and yellow earns 1 point. In this case, yellow earns 4 points, blue and green earn 1 point, and pink earns 2 points. Calculate points for each planet, add those points to your points you've earned for moons and objectives, and the player with the most points wins. In case of a tie, the tied players share the victory. So we've gotten all this way, but we haven't talked about these symbols on the cat tokens. Do they mean anything? Of course they do. I just couldn't find a good way to bring them up until right now. So let's go over what these symbols mean. Each round, players can choose which cat to place on the rocket, and each cat will have a unique ability. If any cats on a rocket show this symbol, then the rocket will begin at 3 instead of 0 for this expedition. If your cat shows this symbol, when the rocket lands on a moon or a planet, you can choose to move 1 space higher or lower than the indicated location. The parachute is a safety net for when the rocket crashes. So if the rocket crashed in this space, the pink player could use their parachute to land on this planet instead of returning back home. If they had crashed here, there are no available moons, so the cat just returns back to the pink player like normal. A cat with this symbol will earn 2 times the number of points if they land on a moon. So this cat will earn 6 points instead of 3. And this cat will double the points earned when planet points are awarded at the end of the game. So pink would earn 4 instead of 2 points for this cat. If this cat reaches deep space, they will earn double points. When this cat gets off the rocket, the current commander must discard an additional die. This cat acts as a spare 1 die. So, blue is commanding the ship, and they roll the dice. And they don't roll any of the correct numbers. Normally they would crash, but they can use this cat to act as a 1, moving the ship forward. And this cat can be used by the commander at any point, even if they weren't about to crash, as long as the rocket is on a space that can use a 1-value dice. And now you know how to play the base game of MLEM, but there's a few variants that I'll go over really briefly. First is the UFO variant. During setup, place the UFO on the deep space rocket location. Place the UFO tokens in a pile with the higher tokens on top, so 5 on top and descending numbers below. Shuffle the expedition tokens and create a face-down pile. At the beginning of each expedition, the commander will draw and activate a token. The token will indicate how many spaces the UFO should move downward, the number of dice the commander will start with, and an additional ability. So in this case, the UFO will move 2 spaces. The commander will start with just 5 dice instead of the regular 6, and they will get this special ability. This special ability lets them use a 3 and or a 1. Each of these abilities are a one-time use, so once the commander uses either or both numbers, they will flip the token over. This symbol lets you keep all the dice used during one movement, instead of discarding. And this symbol lets you re-roll all of the available dice one time. Remember, after using the ability, flip the token over. During movement, if the rocket lands on the same space as the UFO, the commander earns the top UFO token, awarding them additional points. The next variant is explorations. During setup, shuffle all the exploration tiles and create a face-down pile. Reveal 5 exploration tiles. Each tile shows a number and an ability. The number corresponds to a location on the board. Place the 5 tokens on their corresponding location. If the rocket lands on a space with an exploration token, the token is activated. Some tokens award points. The commander takes the token and places it face down on their player board. They will add these points to their final score. Some tokens allow the commander to regain 1 discarded die. The final token allows the commander to immediately move forward that number of spaces. After taking a token, replace it with a new token, so there are always 5 tokens available. The final variant is secret missions. During setup, shuffle the secret mission tokens and deal 4 to each player. Each player selects 3 of the 4 objectives, discarding the 4th one. These are secret objectives for your eyes only. Each secret mission indicates a specific planet or set of moons for you to visit. The token indicates the location. So to achieve this objective, I need to place a cat on the fishbowl world, which can be landed on from space 7 or 8. Players will gain points based on how many secret missions they achieve. 2 points for 1 objective, 5 points for 2, and 10 points if you achieve all 3. And now you are completely ready to play MLEM. If you have any questions, let me know in the comments below. Until next time.